Welcome, intergalactic friends of transformational intercommunication. We are going to depart today at exactly in 5 minutes, and we're going to put on a podcast talking about lifestyle boundary protection. Now, prepare yourself. Keep the luggage stowed under your seats, and we're about to depart. So, the thing is, if you don't have anything to lose, you don't need to protect anything. If you get something to lose, you should protect it. If you had 2 or 3 children, even one child, you don't need it with the one child. No, actually, you would protect the child as well. The more you have, seemingly, I mean, it's all an illusion, of course, but the more you tend to protect it. If you don't have anything, why protect anything? So, and here comes the thing. There's a term which I call LIBOPRO, acronym for Lifestyle Boundary Protection. The thing is, in life, there's lots of influence, lots of toxic influence also from the outside. And when you don't protect yourself and you have lots, and that thing might be a great lifestyle, it might be higher harmony, it might be health, it might be material accumulation, whatever it is. It might be a nice house. You wouldn't let burglars into your house and let them steal everything. You wouldn't let somebody hurt your children if you have children. So the more you have, seemingly, again, it's an illusion, but okay, you're going to protect it because it gives you a certain comfort, gives you a certain harmony, gives you a certain maybe also identity and stuff like that, but it's not so important. You protect it because maybe you love your children, right? You protect your house because you really enjoy and like and maybe even love your house. So the more you have, the more you tend to protect. So you have the acronym LIBOPRO, Lifestyle Boundary Protection. Lifestyle boundary protection is that you actually build something which is kind of worth to protect. And that might be your health, your inner psychological state, whatever that is that you are kind of happy about. And here's the thing. Many people do not have lifestyle boundary protection, and therefore they lose what they have. And one of the worst things you can do, there's many things, but one of the worst things is getting toxic people into your environment. The worst is a toxic partner because they can completely fuck you up. And I give simple examples. If you're someone who doesn't smoke because of maybe health and etc., like a health outlook, and you have a partner that smokes, you're inevitably going to get that smoke secondhand into your system. And it's just or alcohol, whatever. It's just a simple example of something that's much broader. And so you must be very careful who you bring into your system, into your environment, naturally. And I have a small story, which I just want to like, for the purpose of demonstration, I just want to give like an overview of how I feel about this. So there was this English guy who I drove around in a van, and 2 or 3 times, and I was doing it being benevolent, but at the same time, I also wanted to switch pace and do something else. And we seemed to get along in the beginning. And so I drove him around, which is an almost like altruistic gesture. And we were, and he knows the woman that I was into, okay? He knows her. They're like friends. And he, my van at that time was pretty dirty. It's still kind of chaotic, but it was very messy. And at the same time, as I was driving him, the door to the toilet opened and we were driving off-road. And at the same time, my my cassette where all the caca is in was full. So it started smelling, and he was like, "Oh my god, fucking like, what the fuck is that?" I was like, "Oh, sorry. It's just that's how it is when you do van life sometimes, and depending on your setup." But so we opened the windows and stuff, and now I told him specifically. He knew as he knows the girl that I was into. I was like, don't tell her or anybody else, because I know that women have a problem with this, but I'm traveling 4.5 years alone. I can do whatever I please. But I knew that, if a woman finds out about it, then it's probably going to be like a little problem. But I'm a person that when I'm together with someone, I can be super tidy just because I know they want it to be that way. And then I can also appreciate it. But so we were kind of friends. And so I was telling him, don't tell it to her. And he knew how I was feeling about her. So he not only told her, but he was also skewing or changing stories or perfectly lying, actually, you could also say, to this woman to make me look bad in her eyes. And then at the same time, he tried to shut it down, this communication channel to me. And he said basically, don't talk to him about this. Okay. And she not only believed the story, but she actually never asked for my side. And I could notice a sense of, because I'm hypersensitive, I could notice a sense of different communication style and approach towards me from her side. And my intuition was telling me it was 80% because of probably he said something. And actually he did. And then she said at some point, I couldn't imagine myself being together with you, and I'm paraphrasing, because you're so chaotic. And I'm like, where does she know that I'm so chaotic from? So I ask her, and she says, yeah, she has it from him. So she believed his story. It doesn't matter what the truth is. I am chaotic when I'm alone, but that's not the question of what. It's not a question of what the truth is about the chaos. The thing is that she believed him no matter what, and didn't take my story and built her frame about me based on what he was saying. And when I asked her, why did you never ask? So by chance, kind of, yeah, the way just things go in the universe, we were sitting together and I asked her why she never asked about, this story, these two things that happened. And she says, oh, I never did. So, and that was so strange. I asked her then, are you interested in hearing the story? And she said yes. So half an hour later, something, I start to tell her the story, and she like, I show her a text that he wrote to me, about a situation that was going on with another woman, and she said, "Oh, he told it to me differently after reading his private message towards me." And that was it. There was no, from her side, no further explanation, no consequence that she would draw from it. Nothing that I know of. And it was just like, oh, he said it to me differently. So she kind of, in her field, in her energetic field, accepts that somebody lies to her, that someone manipulates her to believe a story, that she changes her behavior towards someone else because of someone she believe, something she believes, and from him, and at the same time also doesn't give me the chance, or is not curious to find out, what my story is, and mm, and accepts that that person is also manipulating her into then saying, hey, don't talk to this guy about it, please. I guess it was like a request. That's all assumptions the way she told me. So I'm just paraphrasing what she told me. So it's interesting. And she then said, and that was interesting because she said, I'm still going to talk to you about it because I don't let myself be enclosed in that way. I want to talk openly about things. And I said, that's exactly how I am as well. But it's interesting because that was already after the fact that I had to ask her if she wants to hear the story, etc. So she never came to me with it. And here comes the thing, something that I forgot to say. I wrote her actually a message because I could already sense it intuitively. I wrote her a message which said, hey, if this guy said anything bad about me, then I would like you to at least have my story as well, because I was sensing that she was changing her behavior towards me because of him. That was just my higher intuition, and I was right. And she read that. She was busy also with other stuff, but there's no excuse for this one. So, and she starts typing, and because I just sent the message, she reads it and she starts typing, and she stops typing and doesn't send me anything. So these like 2 paragraphs are sitting there for like half a day or something without being receiving a response. And I considered that kind of like a pretty harsh infraction on terms of like trust and everything, that she basically accepts this, and that she doesn't consider my view on this. And just because I was some days later, just we happened to meet in a certain way, that it surfaced. Otherwise, it wouldn't have surfaced, and I would have gotten from her more and more and more a cold shoulder. And she believes also that I think badly of women, which I don't see the proof of really. Then she says, yeah, that sometimes I make these remarks. She can't say which remark. It's so anyway. So back to lifestyle boundary protection. So basically, and it does upset me. It does upset me, and it upsets me because of integrity, authenticity, and having a spine. And I understand some of her viewpoints. She says that she is that way because she sees the loving nature and everything, and that people respond this way out of trauma and everything. I think you have to make a differentiation there, which is, first of all, I'm not responsible for everyone's trauma. Number one. Second of all is, I remember Muji was conducting a satsang, and somebody was walking over their vegetable garden, like destroying plants. And he could see that he's like walking over there. And first he said like, hey, tell someone, this guy, that he can't walk over there, over this earth. And it happened 2 or 3 more times during the same satsang. And then he got kind of like, hey, come on, let's get him out of there. And I think that that's a form of lifestyle boundary protection, is basically understanding that not everyone can do whatever they please. And this is a social dynamics thing. You will see it in monkeys, in animals, in every situation, is because you need things in a way to function. And if you don't have anything to lose, you have no money, you have no materialism, you have no materials, you have no you don't have a family, you don't have an important social network, which is important for survival and procreation and everything. So kind of like, then you don't see the necessity for it so much. And especially also if you don't have, I have what I call lifestyle design. That means I created myself a life where I wake up in the morning, I'm super happy, and I want to have, I want to live in this joy because life is short. And here's the thing, like, to someone who lies and manipulates you, even small things like that are enough that you can trust them for larger things in life, for whatever that is. they, in the right moment in time, might be ready to steal from you or give someone information where they then can steal from you. It could be anything. It's just a lack of correct moral compass. And the guy pretends to be a very kind of like loving person, but when it comes down to it, he's kind of like pseudo spiritual and not really that loving. Because if he were truly loving, then he would have let it outplay naturally. Be like, hey, if those two people belong together, if they should be friends, whatever, I I I applaud them for it. Instead of trying this intrigue in order to protect his standing, lower mine, and so forth. That's just, is so lifestyle boundary protection in this case means that if she allows herself to have these liars and manipulators in her field, then and for I mean myself towards him, it's very clear, absolutely zero contact, and I'm actually um um understandably also feel that, let me see if I can put it correctly into words. Sometimes I mix languages, so sometimes it's difficult to find the English word immediately. It's kind of like mischievous, malevolent character. It's and that is, to me, is highly. It's volatile and it's dangerous. In the right moment in time. Doesn't need to be now or so. I mean, he was trying to fuck up basically my contact with her. Yeah. And even if it were just for friendship or whatever, he's basically, for his own sake, he's destroying someone else's lifestyle. It's interesting. So, okay. So, and if she accepts this guy in her field as a liar manipulator and doesn't make any consequence from it and just downplays the whole thing, then there's no space for her in my field. Absolutely zero. And I think this is important to say because uh, the life you experience stems from the frequency you choose. And like I said again, if you have nothing to lose, it's super easy. Like if you travel just with a backpack and you have no money in your bag and you just have like a mattress, then you don't give a fuck about anything. But the more you kind of like have a certain life, and by the way, I've never met anyone with a backpack like that that is truly happy. They're all mentally crazy and they're looking for answers. I've never met anyone who's half like, that's the thing. Competence and true joy is ultra rare. It's really ultra rare. And I've actually never met a person that was as happy as I was the last 9 years. And I've discussed this with several people. It's like it's super rare. Like people pretend a lot on Instagram, on even in real life, like stuff. But when you look really behind closed doors, it's ultra rare. And the thing is, that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I explain to people all these concepts, because it's just small things, and but very clear things that are easily, you can easily implement them in your life, like self-love through higher harmony, lifestyle boundary protection, understanding toxic matter framing, spiritual awakening. All of these things, they're pretty simple to implement, um, and and they completely change your life. And uh, and you have to be, about certain things, you have to be hardliner. Like imagine, I know that she doesn't care much anyway, from what I feel or understand. But let's imagine she would care more. okay, and she would still keep that triangular thing alive, um, that would just bring toxicity into my life. So, yeah, that would just accept people. And I noticed that with her a couple of times, that she allows herself to um, to compromise her own inner values, because she was starting a new job where it's obviously a very toxic environment, and she was crying about it towards me, about a certain thing that the new boss said, and I said, hey, you're not going to change the person, one thing, and the second thing is, that I didn't tell her, but that's very important to know, is that if you cry in that situation, it's your soul is communicating to you that you don't want it. And there is a movie which is called Pan's Labyrinth. I mean, there's many movies in that direction, but it's very, because the Pan's Labyrinth runs two parallel stories as a kind of like a fairy tale. And Pan's Labyrinth is about a war situation where a girl is creating this fantasy land to escape basically this war situation and the toxicity in her household. And the girl chooses, she sacrifices her own life for the sake of higher morality, where she refuses to to compromise on her morality, but then in the end dies because of it. Now, the moral of the story is that she wins anyway because she didn't compromise on her morality. And here's the thing. Um, I don't believe that I don't believe that she's actually doing it out of true altruistic kind of guru self-love, to that she's there for everyone. I think it's a fear of confrontation, because actually allowing others to be malevolent, um, and supporting that actually reinforces that behavior. And this is something where I want to then close off. She's reinforcing negative behavior by others by not um, I'm looking for the English words, by not having any consequence from it. And here's the thing. This is what I told about narcissists, like in toxic metaframing. Narcissists don't need your confrontation. They need to be excluded. They need to be isolated, because then their ego has nowhere to run. And so cutting with the toxic metaframer, the narcissist, is super important for their growth and for your safety, for your harmony. And that's where I leave it for now.